morning, everybody. We are going to begin. And Fred, if you'd like to come up front, you can join us. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Decision 22, our Board of Education Forum here at the Chamber of Commerce. We're glad you're here to hear from our candidates this morning. We will hear from our host sponsor, Jamison Door Company, shortly. One of our supporting sponsors, Penmar Realtors. And also, this is in partnership with the League of Women Voters of Washington County. This is being recorded by Antietam Broadband. It'll be played back on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, channels 6 and 806. We'll also have a YouTube link available if you'd like to watch it after the fact as well. I'm Paul Fry, President of the Chamber. We're so glad you're here with us this morning. We'll have a few announcements, a few introductions, and then we'll get started with our forum this morning. We do have a couple of our elected officials in attendance. Board of Education, we have Melissa Williams. Good morning. Let's give her a round of applause. Welcome. And currently a Board of Education member and a candidate, Linda Murray. Good morning, Ms. Murray. And then we will meet and talk a little bit further with our candidates here this morning. Again, Linda Murray, Fred Chavis, and Ethan Lowen. I'd also like to acknowledge, again, our Business Person of the Year, our reigning Business Person of the Year, Dr. Jim Klauber with HCC. Good morning, Dr. Klauber. And just FYI, at 3 p.m. this afternoon, there will be a groundbreaking at the D.M. Bowman Family Workforce Training Center with HCC at Northern Avenue, so everyone's welcome to attend, and that's exciting to have that happening here in Washington County. Thank you, Dr. Klauber and Mr. Bowman. I'd also like to thank the team here at Applause Caterers and our team, Chamber, Donna, Brianna, and Maddie. Thank you for setting this up. This is our last forum. We've worked really hard to bring this to you, and we're so glad that they worked to do that. Just a few upcoming events. We have our 20th Annual Economic Summit, November 10th, with Dr. Anirban Basu at Fountainhead Country Club, and that's from 5 to 8:30. We still have a few seats left. If you'd like to join us, he'll be talking about our economy from the international level all the way down to right here in Hagerstown, Maryland. On November 17th, if you're a Chamber member, we're at Middletown Valley Bank at the Professional Court Branch from 5 to 7 p.m., our business and social hour. We are going to try to give away $8,500. So if you're a Chamber member, make sure you're there because everyone's name is entered in, and you have to register by noon that day. And lastly, Glenn Shepard is coming back November 18th virtually. He's going to be doing a master class, Managing 4 Generations in the Workplace. That's on November 18th, Friday, 10 to 10:45 a.m. It is open to anyone. It's free and open. You can go to our website, hagerstown.org, and get more information and to register. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce and bring up Mr. Curtis Berry, Jamison Door Company. Please help me welcome Curtis.
Well, thank you. We've enjoyed sponsoring these events for the last couple weeks. Some of them, like the bigger races, I think people, when they come, kind of have their minds made up. Board of Election is a little different. Board of Election, the Board of Education is something that when you vote for it, you're voting for the future, really. These people are going to be setting policy. These are going to be setting what our kids are taught and what they learn. And in the future, these are the people that are going to be running the country. So I'm glad you guys came. Really appreciate you coming out to tell us what you think, and look forward to seeing what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Well said. And as we do at all these forums, I'd like to say that we do not endorse candidates. The Chamber likes to educate the voters on those running for office and hear their viewpoints and how they see the future, in this case for the Board of Education. And so we are happy to host this and to help get our electorate educated. So I will read, as you'll see, we have 3 candidates here this morning. All the candidates for Board of Ed were invited to attend, the ones for the general election, and 3 are here this morning. 2 of the 4 candidates not with us this morning, Mr. Gesford and Mr. Evans, sent emails, declined to participate. For Mr. Gesford, he sent an email saying, "Dear Paul, thanks so much for the invite. Unfortunately, I now work nights and don't get off till 9 a.m. I saved my requested time off for important school board work, so I'm sure you'll understand. Hope you have a successful event, Mike Gesford." And Mr. Evans wrote me and said, "Thank you for the invite. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend." And we just heard this morning, unfortunately, Anthony Williams, he runs a school and he has some staffing issues. He just texted us 5 minutes ago saying he was not able to make it. So we're sorry they're not here, but we're certainly happy we have 3 candidates here to hear from this morning. And to moderate this morning's forum and asking questions of the candidates from our Government Affairs Committee is Mr. Soren Dorius. Please help me welcome Mr. Dorius.
Thank you and good morning. Curtis, you had me nervous there for a second when you said Board of Elections. I looked down at my questions. I was like, uh-oh, this isn't going to go well. I've got the wrong questions here. Wrong office. Had me nervous. So welcome to everybody for being here. And special thanks to the Chamber and for their staff for putting this awesome series of events on. This has been wonderful. It's been great to have this as a learning opportunity. And in that spirit, I hope that that's the way we can progress throughout today as we meet and have this forum. You've heard it before if you've been at any of these, but I want to restate it, that this is not a debate. And what that means and how that plays out means that we don't want you as candidates asking each other questions, attacking each other's positions. This is not the right place for that. Likewise, we want to hear your ideas. So we don't want to hear about national politics. We don't want to hear about national party platforms or things like that. This is local, and this is about our community. This is about our schools. And we want to hear your ideas, your solutions, and how you, if you were elected, how you would tackle those. So without further ado, I want to jump right into this and again, welcome our candidates and offer special thanks to them. I will just, on a personal note, say that I've had the privilege of working on a number of political campaigns in my lifetime, and my hat goes off to you and to your family for supporting you during this process. I know you put in a lot of work leading up to an election. You put your name out there, your reputation out there, so kudos to all 3 of you for being here today and for running for office to try and make your community better. So, without further ado, I'm going to jump into the questions here. I'm going to be asking these questions in various different orders, and especially with there being just 3 of you guys, we'll be rotating, so sometimes I may come back to you, back to back with questions, but I will give everyone an opportunity to answer the questions today. So, let's begin with Mr. Lowen, Mr. Ethan Lowen. Let's start off with the first question today. What motivates you to want this job, and what particular skills or experiences qualify you to be an effective school board member?
Sure.
Yeah, sorry. This is a 2-minute question.
If you have 15 seconds left, I'll raise this. When you're done, I will raise this. Please finish your sentence and be cognizant of the other people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, my name is Ethan Lowen, and what motivates me to run for the school board is the children. You know, as the previous speaker said, you know, the children are the future, and so they need to be the most focus, I believe, in society needs to be on our children, and so that is why I'm running. And as far as what qualifies me, so I have a fairly broad set of experiences that are fairly unique. You know, I'm a financial advisor, so I'm also have been a manager at various points in time throughout my career. And so what that means is that I actually have dealt with hiring, training, promoting, you know, the individuals who have been graduating from Washington County Public Schools throughout the years. And so I have a sense of what is needed and what is occurring in the schools and how those individuals are coming out of the schools. And then as a financial advisor, also part of what that job entails is just being aware of what's happening in the economy, the trends, what the future is going to look like, and so what do the schools need to be providing for the skills of the future. And then on a personal level, there's a series of personal experiences. For one, you know, there's various different issues that children experience in school. And I have actually lived personally through many of those experiences. You know, I was a child in school where I had a learning disability, something that is a very commonly talked about issue right now because it's becoming more and more common. So I went through the special ed programs, the tutors, and everything that is needed in order to take children who are behind in school, what needs to happen internally in a child in order to get them up to pace. I have lived that. And then my children had a very different experience. They were accelerated. They just went to the magnet program in 2nd grade and just quote unquote breezed through, you know, all the way through the IB program, starting in North High. I say that a little bit facetiously, but they did phenomenal. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lowen. Next, we'll move that same question to Miss Murray. And would you like me to repeat the question, or?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I want to let you know I'm down here because I have a sinus infection, so I don't want to make them sick. So it's not that I don't like them, it's just that I thought it would be safer. I have years of volunteering in the schools, not only volunteering as a parent volunteer, but I worked in a school for 26 years. So I have that experience to bring to the board. And I'm an advocate for education. I always have been. I want to make sure that Washington County Public Schools give students the best opportunities to make them successful after high school. And so that is my motivation. I'm an advocate for education, and that is my motivation for wanting to continue to be on the Board of Education.
Thank you, Miss Murray. And then lastly, Mr. Chavis.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm really motivated to run for Board of Education because I was a former science teacher here for WCPS, former head coach for track and field, and a former football coach. And I recognized that there was so much more that I wanted to do for our young people outside of the classroom, outside of the track, outside of the football field. And I got involved in our community. And when I got involved in our community, I think that's when you really began to realize the conditions of your community and the needs of your children. And once I began to really get that work done in the community, I answered the call. I believe that running for Board of Education was necessary. I think education saves lives. Actually, I know that education saves lives. It saved mine. It saved many of those that I know. And I believe that right now, education is under attack. I think that we have become so political that we have forgotten the people and we've forgotten the needs of our children. And so now we're so loyal to parties out here in WCPS and Washington County that the kids are suffering. And I want to bring that back, that if you have a heart, you can serve the people. It doesn't matter if our children are Republican, Democratic, green, blue, doesn't matter. What matters is that we take care of their needs and we provide them with every resource that they need so that they can be successful. So that's why I'm running.
Thank you, Mr. Chavis. Mr. Lowen, we're going to come back to you for this next question here. In your opinion, what are the most important responsibilities of being a member of the elected school board?
Sure. So
Sorry, I got to get in the habit here. This is 1 minute.
Got it. So the school board, the primary responsibilities are to understand the direction, the issues that are needed to be resolved in order to improve education, and to write policies that guide the organization in that direction. The school board also selects curriculum. And so to make sure that the curriculum is actually focused on education, and then, of course, hires the superintendent. So those are the three. And also make spending decisions as well, so very important. So those are the four responsibilities of the school board, all of which are intended to improve the education of our children.
Thank you, Mr. Lowen. Ms. Murray, same question.
Yes. The three most important things that I think are to hire a good superintendent, because that person is leading your school system. We've been very fortunate to have good superintendents. Excuse me, to make policy. Policy is very important in a school system. And the third thing I think is very, very important is to advocate for your school system. You must advocate for your system, for funding, for programs, to make your system the best that it can be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Mr. Chavis, same question.
I believe the main responsibility is to be an advocate for all of your students. And I'm going to put an emphasis on all of your students. We need to be ensuring that all of our students have all the necessary resources, programs, initiatives, whatever it takes for them to be able to be successful. It is also our responsibility to ensure that our schools are safe and that our schools are healthy. I think that is another major responsibility that we would have. And then, also just ensuring that we have equitable policy and policy that's inclusive of all of the diversity that we have here in WCPS.
Thank you. And Mr. Chavis, we'll keep you in the hot seat here for this next question. Next question is, what do you see as two challenges facing education and school boards, and how will you address those challenges?
So I believe the main challenge.
This is 1 minute, excuse
This
me.
is
1 minute.
for
1
the
minute.
Challenges. All right. I believe that one of the major challenges is really in our budget. I think that is like the root cause that leads into a lot of other issues, such as retention, class sizes. I think that if we're able to have a fully funded budget, then we may be able to keep some highly effective teachers, that we may be able to lower some class sizes, maybe even add some highly qualified professionals into the rooms that can provide support for our teachers. And I also think that we need those resources to also help with our English learning students and with our special needs students.
Great, thank you. Same question to Ms. Murray.
Yes, thank you. I agree with Fred. Recruiting and hiring and retaining good staff members, whether it be teachers, whether it be administrators, or ESP staff. We need to make sure that our schools have the best staff and that we are fully staffed. And the second thing is the budget. We need to have a fully funded budget to be able to do these things. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Lowen.
Sure. So, one of the issues actually is the culture of the organization. And so public schools, even in our county, have fallen under the culture of what I would refer to as equity. And so hopefully we'll be able to talk more about that. I actually do not believe that funding is the number one issue, and I'm sure there'll be a budget question where I can go into more detail about that. Hiring certainly is an issue. However, the other thing is that does not get talked about that really needs to be, and even though it's not a school board issue, but it needs to be part of the conversation, is that we've reached a point in our society where the amount of drug addictions in the community has caused our children, particularly showing up in our younger children, to be at a dysfunctional level. And so those are my primary issues. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question, you have 45 seconds to respond. This is going to be for Mrs. Murray. What role does the elected school board play in preparing students for post-high school education or workforce development and certification?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that. Do you know Washington County has the #1 apprenticeship program in the state? We just came back from the MABE conference, and the superintendent couldn't say enough good things about our program. We have grown that apprenticeship program, and it is doing so well that is helping students. Not only they are paid apprenticeship program, paid apprentice, yeah, okay. They are paid for their job, but they are learning a skill that they can take with them after they graduate. We also have, this is our catalog for the middle school program. This is our catalog for the high school program. This is our CTE programs that are in every single school. If you want to learn more about them, come up and see me afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Chavis.
What was the question again?
You bet. What role does the elected school board play in preparing students for post-high school education or workforce development and certification?
Got it. So I think that, as people, we're always improving and, getting better, and I think it's the same thing with a school system. So we have some current programs and different things that can always improve, but also I think that we need to add more programs and initiatives that are working with our local admin. Our principals, I believe, to be the bridge between board and, also our community. So they can better tell what kind of programs and initiatives will be supportive of the student body that they have in each of their schools. And some of the principals already have some major programs that they have going on, or things, that ideas maybe that they may want to bring in. And I think it's important for the board to sit with those local admin to ensure that we're bringing in the necessary programs that fit those communities, because every community is different. And we need to make sure that the programs fit that community and that they are able to have access to those programs.
Thank you. And Mr. Lowen.
Yes, the technical programs and the programs in preparation for higher education, such as the AP classes, the partnership with the community college, et cetera, very important. And we're phenomenal in the state. We do have the #1 technical programs in the state, and I have no complaints, about our preparation for higher education. I guess what I would want to be focused on is that we do need to remember that the purpose of public education is to teach the next generation the tools that are needed to live in a self-governing society. That is actually the purpose of public schools. And so while it's phenomenal and an invaluable service to be able to provide those services to our children, we do need to make sure that we remember that that's what needs to happen. The largest percentage of children possible gaining the skills to be able to do that. And that is something that is in danger. So we need to focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lone, we're going to stick with you on this next question. It's 45 seconds to respond. The question is, providing examples, what are your community connections, and how are you going to stay connected to the community that elects you?
Well, my community connections are varied. I mean, you know, quite a few. I've been here living here since the year 2000. The Navy dropped me off, as I say. So I've known quite a few people. I know a number of people in this room, and so I will remain connected just by continuing to live in this community and to be a part of it, and to continue to meet new people. I mean, there's always one thing you find out: there's always new constituents to meet and to understand, and so that's a never-ending process that I enjoy quite a bit and would be committed to continuing.
Thank you. Same question to Ms. Murray.
Thank you. Well, I do service projects, excuse me, with the Lions Club in Williamsport through my church. I visit schools regularly to talk to teachers and admin to see, you know, what's going on and what they need. And another thing that I do that I've really found enjoyable is I work as a summer employee for the Hagerstown Parks and Rec Department. And I work at various places for them, and I've met so many nice people and had some great conversations. So those are just some of the things that I do out in the community.
Thank you. And Mr. Chavis.
Yeah. So I'm president of the NAACP out here for Washington County. Also, I work with Envy with the violence intervention that's countywide. Also have recently partnered with the Department of Juvenile Services as well. And for those that probably know me, you know that I'm always in the community. I tend to stay very active, so anything that involves young people, I'm probably going to be there. Whether it's summer leagues, sports leagues, whatever it may be, even just volunteering my time to just walk through our communities and just pass out things to our young people and to the homeless, that's where I'm at. So I'm big on communities. I want to see our schools be community schools. I want to see more community involvement in our schools, but I also want to see more outreach of our schools to the community. I think that it has to work both ways, and that's one of the biggest things that I'm big on. So I always put community first, and that's what drove me to even run for office in the first place.
Thank you. Mr. Lone, this next question is 45 seconds. Currently, how accessible is the current board to the community?
I would say the board is very accessible to the community. There are the meetings that are done on a regular basis. There's other meetings and workshops, that they have that are accessible to the public. There's live streaming that occurs. If you write an email to the Board of Education, for the most part, you are going to get a response. The president of the board is actually very good at that. The superintendent responds to emails as well. So I can't criticize the board for a lack of accessibility.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Chavis, regarding accessibility.
I think from a meeting standpoint that you are able to show up for the Board of Education meetings and also be able to watch online, that is accessible. I do have to say, though, I don't think that every community knows who our board members are. And I don't necessarily think that that is really necessarily more so on the people. I think that there has to be a bridge between both sides, that we know who our elected officials are. And that also involves a lot more people being involved in the community the best that they can.
Thank you. And same question to Ms. Murray.
Yes, well, we always have public comment at every meeting, which is great. Everybody's allowed to come out, whether you agree with us or disagree with us. We want to hear what you have to say. Like I said before, I visit schools regularly. Beginning of the week, I was at Lincolnshire. Next week, I'll be at North High. I go around to the different schools, and I like going into the classroom and visiting and talking to the kids, talking to the teachers, the administration. But I'm also, like I said, out in the community. People know me. I'm with the Parks and Rec or with another organization. I'm out in the community and they know who I am. And people do come up and talk to me. I had a man come to my house the other day. He was coming to visit my neighbor, but when he saw my sign in my yard, he started to ask me questions about the Board of Ed. And I was more than willing to have that conversation with him. So I think as long as we're out there and we're open to discussion, I think that's what we need to do.
Thank you. The next question is 60 seconds. We're going to start with Mr. Lowen on this one. The question is twofold. What kind of relationship should the board have with the county's business community? And in what ways have you reached out previously, or would you reach out to the business community to build their support for quality public education?
The board's connection to the business community is invaluable because in so many ways, as a previous question was getting at, what we provide to the business community is their future workforce, their future leaders. And so we want to know, we have to know what the business community is saying, what they're seeing, what the improvements and changes that they are seeing need to be made, and that needs to be taken into very serious consideration. And that is done through events like this, other chamber events, and just continuing to reach out and continue to know more people. So I think that a premium certainly needs to be based upon that relationship.
Thank you. Same question to Ms. Murray.
Yes, thank you. I think we have built a very strong relationship with the business community through our apprenticeship program. We have over 100 students that are placed in businesses around Washington County. And I think that builds a strong relationship. And things like this that you provide for us are also a valuable tool to get our thoughts out, that you see what we're all about. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Chavis.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of local business owners that are very present in the community. And I think sometimes we need to get out of the setting of we need to go and, to other places to bring these business owners together. Some of these business owners are great people to bring into the schools to allow to speak to our children, to allow our children to see some options in different things that they may have. Because you're going to have some business owners that may have a secondary education background, or you're going to have those that don't. Our kids need to see all of the different options, and I think that we need to open the door in our schools to allow some of these business owners to be coming in. Some schools are already doing that, and that's great. But like I said, most of our business owners, they also serve the community. So let's allow our children to see some options that they have, to see just how great this is, to not believe that, there isn't anything else that they may be able to do, but to see some of these business owners and speak with them, engage with them, and even maybe have a plan.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Chavis, we're going to stick with you on this next question. You also will have 60 seconds to respond. The question is, what have or will you do as a board member to help attract and keep highly qualified teachers to our schools?
I think that's in your culture and in your environment. You have to show people that they're going to feel safe and that they're actually wanted, that they're listened to, that they're heard. And if you have a culture that doesn't do that, people won't stick around. And I'm going to just be very honest. In WCPS, I do want to see more diversity in our teachers. And I think that there seems to be this statement that is made, like, we only hire the highly qualified. There are people of color that are very high qualified and highly effective. And I think that we have to create the environment that is inclusive of them, that they are heard. We can't just continue to use the word diversity without actually hearing their words and listening to them and including them in policy. So we have to effectively create a safe environment for all teachers, for all highly effective professionals to come in, that they want to be here. And like I said, I think that starts from up top. That starts with the message that our Board of Education presents.
Thank you. Moving over to Ms. Murray.
Could you repeat that, please?
You bet. What have or will you do as a board member to help attract and keep highly qualified teachers to our schools?
Well, one thing that we've done to help teachers is we have changed the calendar so that we have included some early dismissal days. And that has been very, very, very beneficial to the teachers to help decrease their workload. It gives them an opportunity to work in their classrooms, and they have greatly appreciated that. We need to do more things like that. We need to help teachers with their workload, lessen their workload so that they're not so frazzled and thinking about quitting. We want to keep them. We want to retain them. So that is one thing that I would work on, to work with the teachers to try to see how we can help them better to do their jobs but not be so stressed.
Thank you. And Mr. Lowen?
Sure. So, obviously, the core of the school system is teachers, and as teacher pay is incredibly important. Clearly, we all know that. However, when you talk to teachers, and I have dealt with for many years with many teachers, it's not so much by design, but just in my profession. I deal with teachers in 3 states, 7 different school districts, and I get feedback from them all the time for years. And when you hear them, what they talk about, they really don't talk about pay so much, except for West Virginia teachers. What they talk about is they talk about the administrative tasks that make their job impossible. Just the sheer list of things that need to be done. The other thing that they discuss is how difficult it is to deal with children, not children, they love children, to deal with the behavioral issues and that our children are coming in with, and the lack of the school system to be able to provide stability there. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is also 1 minute for response, and we'll start with Ms. Murray on this. The question is, individual school board members have no authority. Only the board as a whole can make decisions for the Board of Education. What skills or traits do you possess that will allow you to contribute to the effective operations of the board as a whole? Please provide a specific example that demonstrates one of those skills or traits.
Thank you. I am a former paraprofessional in education, in special education. We have some teachers on the board, we have some business people, but I'm one of the educational support personnel. I understand their job. I understand their needs. And so I bring that perspective to the board so that when we talk about things like that I can relate to that and I can relate to them. And I think that, and the fact that I worked in a school for 26 years, I worked in special education, but I also, working in special education, I went into every classroom with all grade levels, pre-K through 5th, and got to work with some fabulous teachers. So I got to experience the things that they're talking about. So I think that helps me being a good board member.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Chavis.
Yeah, as I said before, if you have a heart, you can serve the people. And I use that statement because typically we let what we believe or what we may have been passed down, ideology or different things, get in the way of the work that we can all do together. And that's what we have to get past. On the Board of Education doesn't mean that all of us are always going to be best buds, that we're all going to agree, we're all going to grab coffee, different things like that. But what it does mean is that we respect each other enough and that we respect our community, because the Board of Education is a role of servitude. So we're serving a community, and that has to come first. So highly effective communication, yes, you can have all that, but at the same time, it's just really in respecting what the mission is. If the mission is really our community, then we can sit down and we can have those hard discussions that are going to be hard, they're going to get uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's about serving the community, it's about making sure that our kids have what they need and our educators. So that's what has to come first, and as long as that remains the forefront, then we can all work together on the Board of Education to effectively do what we need to do.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Lowen.
I apologize. Can you repeat the question?
You bet. Individual school board members have no authority. Only the board as a whole can make decisions for the Board of Education. What skills or traits do you possess that will allow you to contribute to the effective operations of the board as a whole? And please provide specific examples that demonstrate one of those skills or traits.
Sure. So one thing to keep in mind is that, we're 97% in agreement with everything. Now, that 3% can be a real doozy, but let's always keep that in mind. And as far as the skills and traits, I'm a listener. I understand. That's my goal. That's my profession. That's what I've built my profession on, is being able to understand what the person across the table is telling me. And sometimes even trying to get them to a better understanding of that themselves than what they currently have. And so that skill, being able to work with 6 other board members to be able to bridge the gap between that remaining 3% is a very important skill, and one of the reasons that I'm running for the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lone, we're going to stick with you here. 60 seconds for this next question. Describe how the board can provide quality education for a diverse student population, including the gifted and talented, the average student, special education, cultural differences, the academically challenged, and English as a second language, also known as ESL.
Sure, that's my bailiwick. That's been my life experience. So and this gets to equity, one of my original points. I hope I have enough time here. So what it is that there's currently a belief that you can define all these children, that you can take these different ethnicities, and it's written in our equity policy. Kids are divided up into all these groups. And so they're divided by ethnicity, they're divided by race, they're divided by family situation, the list goes on and on. And the answer is that there's a common theme among all situations, and that's the beauty of education, is that you actually don't need to try to define a child by their ethnicity. I mean, which of my ethnicities do you want to define me by today or this year versus 5 years ago, right? So what the commonality is among all things is that the power of just teaching children reading, writing, math, science, what learning math or music does to the brain is universal. That universal strength and benefits of education is how you deal with those situations. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Chavis.
Yes, so I've been in the classroom, and in your classroom, you have a diverse range of students, okay? And I just have to say that is absolutely not what equity is. In your classroom, you have to address the needs of your students. You are going to have students that have special needs. You are going to have students that have went through some things, and you have to be able to have a curriculum and be able to address those kids and help those kids out. Special education is literally equity. And so I just need to say that because, again, we get too far from what we're trying to do for my students, and we get into other agendas, and that doesn't help our classroom. So, when you're doing your curriculum, when you're looking at your student body, you do want to be inclusive of the diversity that's in your classroom. And you want to ensure that you are making sure that you're taking care of those needs. And a lot of teachers may need more support with that, but as a teacher for myself, I was able to help my students out to make sure that they all felt included, that they all was happy to be in that classroom, and that all their voices was heard, while also being able to provide support. That's what an effective teacher does.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And Ms. Murray.
Yes, thank you. Washington County Public Schools does have an equity policy. Equity in education means that we provide the necessary tools that each student needs to be successful. Every student is different. Every student has different needs. And we have to provide that for them so that they can feel successful and go on and be successful.
Thank you. Mr. Lowen, we're going to circle back to you. You have 1 minute to answer the following question. What specific action should the board take to increase the role of parents in decision-making and to promote parental involvement in the schools? In this age of single parenting and two-paycheck families, how do we involve parents?
Phenomenal question. So that's actually how I ended up getting involved with running in the Board of Education. Is there was a group of parents who got together and said, the school system isn't listening to what parents have to say at all. And so I just showed up at a meeting just to hear what they had to say, and then one thing led to another, and here I am right now. So the parents are key. I mean, what is the differentiating factor between successful children academically and non-successful children academically? The number one factor is their family situation. And so the role of parents, we need to promote parental volunteerism, right? You hear about parents having trouble to come into school. Well, we can't hear that. That doesn't work, So reaching out to the community. We have a program of community schools. There is some potential there. Of course, community schools were done when I was a kid in my school districts in New York. So why is New York towards the bottom of the list for academic performance? They've been doing that for decades. So there's certainly other issues, but parental involvement, issue number 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Ms. Murray.
Thank you. I think one of the things that we need to do is reinstate the Parent-Teacher Association. When my kids were in school, I was president of the PTA, and we had a lot of people come in and help. We had fun activities. We had reading nights. We had so many great programs bringing parents into the school, seeing what we were doing. Citizens advisory committees, I'd like to see more of those. We need to get the parents involved so that they know what's going on in the schools. And just talking to your child and seeing what's going on in their school. Those are some of the things that we need to do to get parents more involved.
Thank you. Mr. Chavis.
Yes, I just want to also say that, acknowledging that we need more parental involvement and we need to meet the parents, and bring more in, that's equity. Just wanted to kind of throw that out there too, because we're ensuring that our kids have the needs, that are met. I also agree with Ms. Murray that we do need to have more PTAs going based on the communities. But also, we need to start getting out into the community. As board members, everybody should know who we are. And there's a lot of different things that goes on in our communities, whether it be community events or anything like that. Let's start showing up for what we can show up for. To meet the people where they're at. That might be the first step to being able to start bringing them into the fold, is to start going to where our community parents are at and bring them in, whether it's the parents or the guardians. A lot of things that we try to put in the mail or in emails is not necessarily reaching. But if we can start off with meeting the people where they're at, that might open the door to bring them into our schools and allow their involvement.
Thank you. This next question is 45 seconds for response, and Mr. Lowen, we'll start with you first. What is the role of censorship for the Board of Education?
Before I answer, what do you mean, role of censorship? Censorship of?
Any material that might come through a school system.
Well, so obviously the board is responsible for curriculum. So what's appropriate curriculum, right? You had that issue in Florida where they had to get rid of 45% of the math books because they couldn't find math books that purely taught math. They were including gender equity in math books. So picking curriculum that teaches the actual material and nothing else, if you want to call that censorship, picking curriculum that teaches education. There is the issue of the library books that have been going on. Library books, completely pornographic, outright pornography, and they need to come up for review. And if the way the parents portray them is correct, then, based on that portrayal, I would say that they should be removed. That is what library books get removed all the time. That's how new library books get put in. So we need to have a review process, and there is a legal well-established legal process for that, and we need to initiate that regarding what the parent said is very compelling. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowen. Ms. Murray, same question.
Thank you. I know we have some books in the library that some parents are very concerned about. We do have a procedure in place where the parents can flag that book and their children cannot get that book out of the library. However, parents, if they're upset about books in the library and they want to censor them, they have to go above us. Our hands are tied. What they need to do is go to the state delegation and get them to write a law, write something that gives us the power to remove the books, because right now we don't have any power to do that. So I am asking citizens that are upset about this, I understand how they feel. So if they want to go ahead, they have my blessing to get the books removed.
Thank you. And Mr. Chavis, same question.
Yeah, I think when you start getting into censorship, you start getting into a very dangerous field because I believe this to be more of a power move, not necessarily about the material that's in the books, but it starts with, well, how do we get these certain books removed that, we say are pornographic and different things, and then it leads into, well, this book is talking about race, or this book is talking about another experience of another population or different things, and then we start getting into removing all of these different things. So I think it's a domino effect that is being heard here. And so, with censorship and different things, as a board, I believe that we need to make sure that we are inclusive of our student bodies, of our communities and different things. I have to say, in my teaching now in this generation, I've never seen a whole bunch of kids sitting on the floor in the library reading a whole bunch of books. I don't think that we're doing that really anymore. I think they have more access on their phones than anything, to be honest. They got spam Instagram accounts, spam TikTok accounts, so we're seeing it all online. But as far as censorship, I believe that this is like a power move to start engaging and removing diverse books and different things out of our libraries. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Chavis, we're going to stick with you for this next question. Again, 45 seconds. Are there any community partnerships or activities that you look towards to support student achievement outside of the school?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of like sports leagues and different things that go on. I think that those are fantastic. I would like to see more involvement with like our community centers and different things, but we have a lot of volunteer opportunities, especially for high schoolers that can get SSL hours by putting in work in our communities. And I think that we do need to definitely keep those going. A lot of the work, I think people think that education only stays in our classroom. A lot of the work for education is really outside of outside of your classroom. It's in the community, because we have to ensure that the students outside of your classroom have everything that they need, which means that you have to see the whole child. And so in this community work, you're seeing the whole child and everything that they need, and that allows you to be involved. There's so much opportunity out there in our communities, so much opportunity. So even if it's just passing out food, that is a time to be involved in the community. That is a time to be able to reach the people, you know? So we have a lot of opportunities that we can do as a board outside of the community. I'm already involved in the community, and I plan to stay that way.
Thank you. Same question to Ms. Murray.
Yes, there are so many things that go on with the community that help our students. We have teachers that they'll put it out on Facebook. I need a book for each child in my classroom when they walk through the door the first day. And people are just giving so much because they want to help that teacher and another teacher and another teacher. So, anytime you put something out there in the community, there's always people that are going to help. And we've had community partners. I know we have community partners with Teacher of the Year, and Honda, and Chick-fil-A, and it's numerous. The numerous businesses and the community outreach is wonderful for the public school system. So thank you, business community, for that.
Thank you. And Mr. Lowen.
Yeah, there's phenomenal opportunities, right? And many of them are taken advantage of. The community centers, the Y, the Boys and Girls Club, Girls Inc., et cetera, et cetera. They're great things, and they should continue to be promoted and used in every opportunity. One danger that we just need to keep an eye on, and it comes in the form of the community schools, which is a big, expansive program that continues to take up more and more funds and time, is that there's the danger that it can actually push out some of these community organizations, as, quote, government comes in and creates its regulations. And that I wouldn't want to see. So there's a balance we want to keep in mind there. But absolutely, community involvement from volunteer organizations is invaluable. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Lowen, let's stick with you here. The next question, you'll have 1 minute to respond. It is, in your opinion, is the push for STEAM, that is science, technology, engineering, arts, math, and manufacturing, is it still relevant in the education of our future workforce? And what order would you put these in?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's absolutely relevant. And the order that I would put them in, science, technology, engineering, math are all kind of similar functions, so I don't know that I'd prioritize one over the other. When you include arts, one of the things is particularly music. It shows up in music. Individuals that learn classical music, the playing and reading of music simultaneously, there are some real skills associated with that. That employers find very, very valuable. So, not necessarily all art fits in that category, but that particular one does. No, they're invaluable to be focused on, and I certainly think the focus should continue, and I think we do a very good job of it in this county.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Chavis.
Yeah, I think that it's still very important. I guess I would like to put an emphasis on arts. I think a lot of free expression in different ways that students are allowed to express themselves is super important, and I think that goes right hand in hand with your regular curriculum. But I would like to see an emphasis more on the arts. I think our students have very valuable gifts and talents that they can bring to the table, and sometimes they don't have the options to be able to express it or to even find that it exists. And you'll be surprised what that leads into, because that could lead into your business world. That could lead into, how they want to present science and different things. I'm a science teacher, but, I'm also gifted in other things, and I'm able to combine them. So you never know what you're able to find, and a lot of students end up finding their identity and who they are in the arts. So, I will put arts first, but everything is still just as important. So it doesn't take from anything else. But we do want to make sure that our students just have all the resources and the access, and I have to emphasize the access to be able to do what they need to do and improve.
Thank you. Same question to Ms. Murray.
Yes, thank you. I think the push for STEAM is very important. Those things are important for education, and my children were actually exposed to STEAM before it was STEAM, and they really benefited from all of those things, and especially music. And I think when you put those things together, I think it makes you a better student, especially if you're going on to college.
Thank you. This next question, you have 1 minute to respond. We're going to start with Mr. Chavis on this. The question is, with the apparent success of all-day pre-K and kindergarten enrollment so far, about 75%, what should the plan be to get the remaining available pre-K and kindergarten students that are not yet enrolled?
I mean, this is equity. I think it's just we need to address what may be holding them back, what other things may be happening to, be a barrier. I think the point of education is to remove barriers. It is to open the door to allow them to be successful. It's not to make their life harder. It's not to make their life more challenging, but it is to acknowledge those challenges that they may have. And sometimes that's going to have you step out of your comfort zone. Maybe you're going to have to step out into the communities. Maybe you're going to have to address what may be going on because it might be something that's going on in the streets or in the environment. But I think that there just will have to be more outreach. And again, that's bridging the gap that is necessary to ensure our students succeed.
Thank you. Same question to Ms. Murray.
Thank you. Our pre-K program is very successful. So we have enrolled many students, and according to the blueprint plan for Maryland, we are now going to be working with 3-year-olds. So that will even help our kindergarten readiness even more. Kindergartners must be enrolled in a program. They're either enrolled in our public school program or they're enrolled in a private program. So they have to be in a program, an accredited program.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Lowen.
Sure. Our pre-K is fantastic, but I wouldn't say that it's a goal to have every child enrolled in pre-K. We want to have the information made available to everybody. We want everyone to know what the options are. We want to know what the opportunities are. But is it our purpose to get all kids into the program? Not necessarily. I wouldn't even describe pre-K as being superior to being at home with their parents. But certainly, we have a responsibility to make sure that everyone is aware of the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Lowen, let's stick with you for the next question. You'll have 60 seconds. Currently, 43% of all students entering kindergarten in the Washington County are kindergarten ready. Given the learning gap related to the pandemic, what needs to be done to improve those numbers?
Sure, and this gets to what's happening in society, right? So, are we going to say every child 3 years old needs to be in school, every child 2 years old, 1 year old needs to be in school, or what is the underlying issues that are causing this? Because the reality is, schools can't raise children. And you get to the point where it's a young enough age and you're essentially saying we need our schools to raise our children. So what are the underlying issues? Because that's a terrible, terrible statistic. That's a mortifying statistic. And this gets to where essentially what I was saying earlier is that we need to have the honest conversation that the amount of drugs in the community are causing so many problems, and it is now showing up in our youngest children being at a level of dysfunction. And we don't have control over that. We certainly can provide opportunities such as pre-K or whatever to help with the situation, but that's the underlying cause, and we need to have that conversation when we're talking about those issues at those ages. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Murray, same question.
Yes. I think 43% kindergarten ready is old data. I think you'll find that the number is much higher now. I don't know whether that's been released yet, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot higher. We've moved up. Before we started universal pre-K, we were near the bottom. But since we've started universal pre-K, our kindergarten readiness scores have shot up. So it's working.
Thank you. And Mr. Chavis, same question.
Yeah. So I think when you look at the numbers and different things, this is going to involving the community in some of these options. We do have some community organizations that also work with pre-K, that they also will provide tutoring services to help bridge that gap. The issue is not really in raising our children because some of these kids don't have parents or guardians that's in their home. Some of these are homeless youth and different things that we're dealing with. And some of them have been adopted. Maybe, it's so many different scenarios. And so some of them can't lean on their house to be able to help them to be ready for school. And we have to be able to bridge that gap. And I believe that our schools are able to help with that, to provide that connection with the community. And just in becoming a community school, because that will help our kids to become ready. And so, when we look at the numbers, we can always get higher numbers. We want everything to steadily improve, but make sure that our kids have access, make sure that they are in the know of what they can reach out to help bridge that gap. And the schools have to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Murray, we're going to start with you on this next question. You'll have 1 minute. Considering the loss of class time instruction, how do you think we should address the challenges of the learning and social deficits that were caused by the pandemic? What needs to be done to bring all students up to their respective grade level?
Well, one of the things that we're doing, and this is with Blueprint money, one of our high poverty schools, Salem Avenue Elementary, has started a program called After the Bell. And students are staying after school, and there's so many different programs. It's tutoring, but it's also involving the arts and different things that they normally wouldn't get. It's also including parent involvement, which we talked about before. And they had the program before. It was been very successful, and now they're growing the program. So I'd like to see more programs like this to help the students achieve and bridge that gap.
Thank you. Mr. Chavis, same question.
Yeah, I think a lot of focus does need to be on our students' mental health needs. I think during the pandemic, so much has occurred, during that time where we overlooked that our students have also been affected by this. And with that, it's almost like they kind of emerge out of a cocoon ready to be social and everything. And, a lot of times in the school building, transition to classes, been a part of this. Kids don't have much time to interact or anything, and so a lot of times it comes out in different ways. I would love to see in our schools a little bit of a focus on the mental health of our needs, but also their social needs. Maybe just giving them like a little 10-minute break or something like that just to see their friends and talk and then get back focused on, curriculum and everything. But also after-school programs. That has to be huge. We have to make sure that after-school programs are accessible to all of our students. I'm talking about transportation and different things, and if we're able to have them in most of our schools. Again, a lot of this requires more of a budget increase and different things, but there needs to be an emphasis on after-school programming.
Thank you. And Mr. Lowen.
Yeah, so major issue, of course, because that's been essentially the top complaint of teachers ever since the pandemic ended is the behavior of the children. So you're talking about, if you want to call it social emotional learning, yes, after-school programs are good. But we got to keep in mind, when you talk about after-school programs or community schools, you just got to keep in mind that, that's been going on for decades. When I grew up in New York State, that's what we did. Well, that's 40 plus years ago, right? And so look at New York State's academic achievement now. What happened, Then when I was in the Florida school districts, they relied more on the community centers. They were great. There's positive, but we just got to keep in mind that there's limitations. What I think the real solution is it comes in the form of what the school system offers children that nothing else offers children, which is why public schools have been around for centuries and found value. It's the consistency of the education, that example of teachers to be able to guide a child in any type of struggles they're having, and just the consistency of education is invaluable. That's the ultimate solution we offer.
Thank you. Mr. Lowen, we're going to stick with you for the next question here, and you'll have 1 minute for it. What are your views on virtual learning, and how would you ensure all students that desire to go to school virtually, regardless of economic status, have access to the tools they need to participate in the Academy of Blended Learning Education, or ABLE?
Well, virtual learning, if there's a global pandemic, good thing. If a child needs to stay home from school because they're sick, virtual learning is a good thing. But virtual learning as a lifestyle, we're teaching we're helping guiding children to be adults for all the skills of living. And so, can you live life behind a computer screen? I mean, numerous psychological studies have been done showing the damage to children, that the depression rates in children very tightly correlated to the amount of screen time they have on social media or what have you. So we're going to turn that now, make that the educational experience. No, there's skills that children need to learn and live, and the skills of life have to occur face to face. And so there's certainly a role and a time, but it's a very limited role and time. So face to face is the way to go.
Thank you. And Mr. Chavis, same question to you regarding virtual learning.
Yeah, first I would like to say just with, like, when you're looking at data, most of the time with screen time, we're talking about things that's not helping to improve their learning. We're talking about things that's just, anime and, other stuff. But education, screen time is a lot different because it's allowing something to grow in their minds. And so I'm a supporter that if there are students and families that believe that they would like to still be virtual learning, like through our ABLE programs and different things like that, I'm all for that because, the families may know best, but also there are some kids that during the pandemic time actually found their comfort zone and they did a lot better with virtual learning. So let's not mess that up. Let's continue to have that. Let's provide different access for, some of our students. So if virtual learning is a possibility for our kids, that maybe, they are successful with, then by all means, allow them to stay home, allow them to be virtual learning, and we still provide the resources for them.
Thank you. Ms. Murray.
Thank you. I'm very proud of our ABLE program. We have students that have mental health issues. Going to school is very stressful for them. Now they can stay home and they can be productive and they can graduate. We have fragilely medical students that have problems being around other students because of their medical condition. So this is a good thing for them. So this is another way of an equitable education. We are providing an education for these students who otherwise wouldn't be able to get it. So I'm proud of our ABLE program.
Thank you. This next question, you'll all have another 60 seconds to respond to. Mr. Lowen, we'll start with you. With the dramatic increase in the school violence across the country, as a school board, what steps should be taken to protect students and teachers from violence or harassment, including the deployment of safety resource officers and use of social and emotional professionals?
Sure. So, and just to go back to comment with ABLE, if there's a medical need for ABLE, I definitely support it. I just want to emphasize that. But as just a lifestyle, no, I do not believe in that. Okay, so as far as the school violence, major issue, right? I mean, when you listen to teachers, that's the number one thing they talk about. That's the number one issue. And so student resource officers, absolutely, very important. But the thing is that the student resource officers come in after the situation has exploded, damage has been caused, loss of learning has occurred. So we need to reinstate the teacher as the authority in the classroom. Teachers actually need to be the source of structure in the classroom. And we can't have these situations that teachers are talking about where children are horribly behaved and then come back, dangerous, violently behaved, and then come back to the class an hour later, a day later. We need to have other things, and I am running out of time, but invaluably important subject. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Murray, same question.
Yes. Washington County Public Schools takes safety. It's very important, and we take it very seriously. Of course, we've put in our safety vestibules. We have cameras when kids go to and from portables to monitor and make sure they're safe. Some of the things that are going on in the schools, yeah, they're hard, but we are dealing with it. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're constantly looking at ways that we can improve safety. It's not like we're turning a blind eye to it. We are working tirelessly to make sure that our schools are safe for staff and for students.
Thank you. Mr. Chavis.
Yeah, I think that it needs to be a huge focus on the mental health of our students. Some of our students had act out, and we've been in the classroom. Like, for instance, if a kid can't read, many times they're going to act out. And so I say that because, we have to be able to understand what those students are going through to be able to provide the support that they need, which will, be bringing in more professionals into our schools that are able to support the teachers in their classrooms so that they can remain effective. But also with that, SROs should not be used for discipline in our schools. SRO is supposed to be providing protection in our school for anything from the outside that may be coming in. That's the way that I think an SRO should work. And many times SROs are being used as discipline in the classrooms, and unfortunately those are your students of color that are typically targeted by that. And so I think that there needs to be an adjustment or a discussion that needs to be had on that issue. But again, I think there needs to be a focus on mental health of our students, not so much in just the discipline where we are kicking kids out of the school when that's their safe haven, but a focus on their mental needs.
Thank you. Mr. Lowen, in 1 minute, could you please tell us, how would you ensure a positive working relationship between the Board of Education and the county commissioners and the Washington County Teachers Association?
Sure. I mean, listening, number one. The county commissioners, it certainly has taken on an air of a toxic relationship. But essentially, what happens is the board spends 5 months a year basically bashing the county commissioners for not caring about public education. And then that's going to lead to productive conversations sometime down the road. So that obviously is not going to work and will not begin to work at any point in the future. So what are the county commissioners saying? What are their concerns? When you look at the budget, what do the county commissioners see? They see that from 2009 to 2019, spending per pupil went up at approximately the rate of inflation. From 2019 to now, the spending, even accounting for the massive inflation we have now, spending went up by approximately 24% per pupil above the rate of inflation. Why is that? So you got to answer those questions. You can't just say the county commissioners don't care about education for 6 months out of every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowen. Ms. Murray.
Thank you. We talk about this often, and we have discussions on what we think would be the best plan with the county commissioners. I think we have a good relationship with the Washington County Teachers Association, and hopefully, I think we're going to see some improvement in the Board of County Commissioners. I think we're going to see some open dialogue, and that's what we need. We need to put the barriers down, we need to sit down at the table, and we need to discuss what the needs are of the county, and what the needs are of the school board, and how we can work together to make things happen. And I'm open to these discussions, and I think my other board members are too.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Chavis.
Yeah, I'm going to say it again, y'all. If you have a heart, you can serve the people. Even as a county commissioner, you're in charge of the funding, but you are still ultimately serving the community. And so when we're having these discussions, where we're trying to get budget increase, when we're working on different things, it's got to be in the communication and the relationships. I can't go into the situation and be like, all right, I already know what they believe, and that's supposed to affect how this conversation is going to go. No, we have got to put our communities and our schools first. And so, I have already had discussions with some county commissioners and different things. And the things that I do in my community, the hats that I wear, I have to be in some of these difficult conversations. I have to work with people that absolutely are on the opposite side of what I may believe in different things. But yet we're able to have those discussions to bring about the change that we need. So I'm not going into this situation thinking negatively or anything like that. I'm looking to build, and I think that's important.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you'll all be pleased to know we're on our final question now. We're going to have you each take 2 minutes, and this closing question is simple. Why should we vote for you? And let's start with Mr. Chavis.
Wow, don't start with me. I wanted to close this thing out. No, I kind of said this before, man. I look at purpose, and for me, when I was in the classroom, when I was coaching, I saw that I wanted to do so much more. And many times, we can get comfortable where we're at, and then things are allowed to stay the same. But education is super important. Education saves lives, and I mean it. That's not just a broad statement. Education saves lives. So we have to ensure that our students have every resource and every need addressed, and we have to do that in equitable policy, and we have to ensure that politics does not play a role in our schools. again, we put too much on political parties and different things, and we forget about our children and we forget about our people. So it's time to start putting people first. It's time to unlearn some things here in Washington County, which involves ideology and the way that things have always been, and acknowledge the diversity in the groups that we have right now, and look to build for that next chapter. And it starts with the education.
Thank you. Ms. Murray, same question, closing remarks.
Thank you. I think all of you know my background in education, so I'm not going to go into that. I believe in public education. I'm an advocate for public education. I want you to know, since I've been on the board since 2017, I've missed one business meeting and one closed session, two business meetings and one closed session meeting, because I believe in showing up to do the work. I think that this job is important. I think when I'm assigned to do something, I do my reading, and I'm fully prepared to come and do the job, to do the work of the board. I haven't missed any of these forums. Even though I wasn't feeling well today, I felt it was my duty to be here, to let you know how important this job is to me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Lowen.
Yep. Well, thank everyone for being here. Thank you for the opportunity. I really actually enjoy these forums. Maybe that's a mental problem, my issue, but nevertheless. So I don't think any candidate can make the claim to care about children more, than the others. I think we're all the same in that regards and understand the role of education. But how are we going to deal with things? How are we approaching with solving the problems? What is our understanding of how to achieve the goal? And that's really where there's stark differences between the candidates, And so what is our understanding? And so here's my understanding of the situation, is that, and I just want to phrase it like this. So there was a test, the nation's only universal national test, that apples-to-apples comparison by the Department of Education of students came out nationally, just came out 2 weeks ago. And so in that, I just want to read some statistics to show how you deal with education. And so in Maryland, we are the 16th highest spending. Now, these are 2019 spending numbers, 2022 testing numbers, though. We're the 16th highest in spending, but we're 11th from the bottom for academic performance. New York is number 1 in spending. They're 7th from the bottom in academic performance. Wyoming, 12th highest in spending, number 2 best academic performance. Utah, dead last in spending per student, 9th best in performance. Florida, 41st lowest in spending, 5th best in performance. And the thing is that it's not that money doesn't matter. Money matters a lot, right? I don't have to tell anyone in this group that. But the thing is culture and strategies are where real success comes from. And so which candidates understand that and have the right idea as far as the culture and the strategies that lead to real success? Because it doesn't matter how much money we throw at it, even though it's necessary oftentimes, but only culture and strategies will succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I want to thank all of our candidates for joining us here today. And I'm going to hand the time over here back to Paul and let him say some final remarks. Thank you.
Let's give Soren a round of applause. Thank you for doing an excellent job moderating. We appreciate it as part of our Government Affairs Committee. I also want to thank our candidates for your efforts. Again, putting yourselves out there, running for public office. It's not easy in time, energy, and we appreciate your efforts on behalf of the community and wish you well in the next election. And I also want to thank each of you for being here this morning. And if you're watching the recorded version, thank you for getting to know the candidates. If you're here today, the candidates are here a little bit longer. The meters start at 9. There's a little bit of wiggle room there, but I'm sure the candidates will spend a few minutes talking with you one-on-one. And last, encouragement to get to know the candidates and please vote. Thank you and have a good rest of the day.